True Faces Unmasked is a podcast of candid conversations that explore the intricate layers of our unique identities, worth, and value. I'm Lorin.
I'm Paige.
I'm Kim. Let's unmask.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of True Faces Unmasked. Today, we're going to be talking about postpartum identity, or as I would really like to call it, like a mother. Okay?
That's the title.
That's awesome.
Mother. Got it.
So I think it's an interesting conversation, and it's something that I guess I haven't heard a lot of people talking about, but I also don't listen to a whole lot of people. So maybe there's a lot out there about it. Something that I've gone through, and I'm a bit further away from because I have children who are 8 and 18, so I'm a little further away from the new mom stage. Lorin is a lot closer to it, having a 2 and 4-year-old, right? And then Paige does not yet have children, but knows people who have been going through it. And so I just think...
And I am a dog mom.
And you are a dog mom.
Even though it's different.
Okay.
It's still a thing. It's different, but
So that being said, I am really curious to hear kind of the different perspectives on identity, like postpartum. And it's kind of a big shift becoming a parent, especially becoming a mom, from who you were and then taking on this whole other role that wasn't there before, and not feeling like you've completely lost yourself. And I say that from experience, feeling like I had completely lost myself after I had my first kid. And it took a long time. So I'm hoping this conversation will help people to not have to take a long time and not have to struggle the way that I know I did. And I think maybe you did a little too.
Yes. Or at least to know that it's completely normal.
Yeah.
Even if it does take a long time. Like, I hope it doesn't take a long time. Like, it's not fun. But if you do, it's totally normal.
Yeah. You know what? I think one of the hardest things when I was like really trying to figure out who I was at, like adding on being a mom, was I felt like I was an island. I felt like I was out floating in the middle of an ocean and nobody had any idea what was happening. Nobody had any idea what I was going through. Nobody could relate to me. Nobody else had ever gone through the same stuff, like the whole whispering in your ear, you're such a bad mom. Why are you doing that? Why don't you just know these things? How could you? What, like those things, like how could they just send you home from the hospital with that baby? Like, you are not ready for that. Those voices that happen, it happens. Like, I remember standing outside of the hospital after I had Henry. Henry's my oldest. And, like, putting him in the car and standing up from the wheelchair because they insist upon, like, wheeling you out, right? Standing up from the wheelchair and they're like, okay, bye. And I'm like, you're just sending me home with him? Like, you're just going to let me leave with this baby? Aren't there rules or something? Like, shouldn't I have to, like, check some boxes or something?
I don't think I had that
I
experience.
did. For sure.
Oh, my goodness. But, yeah, it was totally surreal.
Mm-hmm.
It was surreal. I remember thinking that babies were just going to sleep and just be so quiet and still, and I was going to get so much done, being able to stay at home now, and you just go home with this perfect little sweet little thing, and then their entire personality changes within a few days, and I have no idea what I'm doing anymore. I'm not getting anything done, and I should not be here. Like I should not be trusted with this.
I totally felt like that. Obviously, I was like, what are you doing? There have to be rules against this.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Although I also know there are people who are just like, they have an easy transition, or it seems to be an easy transition. Did you ever watch that movie? I think it was What to Expect When You're Expecting.
I didn't watch
Anybody?
it.
Oh, it sounds
No.
familiar. I just can't think of
Okay,
it right
well, it's multiple people who are expecting to have a
Mhm.
baby, and there's one character who's pregnant and having the easiest pregnancy, and then gives birth, sneezes once, and then the baby
now.
comes.
Okay, I've
and
seen
like,
it. I just can't.
And it was
yeah.
like, I've seen those
Mm-mm.
people.
27 hours.
Same girl.
Ugh.
I was pushing for 4 hours with my first. My second, I only pushed like 4 times,
Was
but
it 4 hours?
it was crazy.
I can't remember. I was thinking maybe 5 hours. Or maybe it's 3. I don't know. But it is right around there.
Yeah,
Same.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot. It's a lot. So, okay, not only have you been carrying this baby for 9 months, which is
Mhm.
a magical thing in itself, like truly it's unlike anything else, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, when you can feel like the baby moving in the mom's stomach, feeling that from the inside is
That's crazy.
different, right? Like,
Totally
it's-
different. What's
There's
fun?
nothing else like it unless you have really bad gas.
Even still. What's fun is whenever they decide to get hiccups while you're trying to go to sleep.
Oh,
Okay, they decide. They didn't decide. But yeah, they get hiccups when I'm trying to go to sleep. I'm like, that is the most annoying feeling
That's
ever.
funny. I never experienced that. But okay, so anyway, you're carrying this baby and then you go through labor and it is truly laborious. Like, unless you're the sneezer who just has it easy.
Was that her first baby, though?
Well, in the movie it was, but this was a
Okay,
movie.
well, this was a movie.
it was a
Okay.
movie. Yeah,
This was
So-
0% based on real life.
Yeah.
Anyway, but unless you have like the sneeze experience, like it is truly laborious. Like there's pain that happens and there are things that are happening to your body that have never happened before if this is your
Mhm.
first. And somehow your body knows what to do, which is also just wild. It's wild to me, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know how I always say the word innate?
Mm-hmm.
I know you
I'm going to
do.
start making a tally.
Right.
Yeah.
But that's one of those things. Like your body just knows what to do.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think what I found remarkable about the transition from like just being like the woman who's pregnant to now a mom, like, so there's now this
Mm-hmm.
external person to care for and to mother, is that it did come naturally. And they always said that it would. But I'm like, I'm not naturally nurturing. I'm not naturally,
Mhm.
like, I wasn't the teenager who wanted to babysit. I was like, oh, I have to. I will. Like, you had a baby. I'm so happy for you. I'll look at it. It's cute. Otherwise, hands off. Like, that's kind of my personality. But when I had my own children, it was different. Like, it did come very naturally. It was always there. It was just like a part of me that was built in that kind of got activated in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
But with that activation, it kind of had to come to the forefront and it had to be kind of the loudest part of who I was, especially in the beginning. But babies, newborn babies, need a lot of care. And so you need to have a very dominant mothering part of you. You know what I mean? And I think this also comes very naturally. But in that, I didn't know who I was anymore. And I didn't know how to be me anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew, all of a sudden, I knew how to take care of this baby that I was questioning the sanity of these nurses for like sending me off with. All of a sudden, I knew what was best for him, but I didn't know what was best for me anymore.
Mm.
And I didn't know how to be Kimb
Mm-hmm.
while having this mother part that was just activated.
Mm-hmm.
And I think really that's at the heart of what I was hoping to talk about today, because that transition is a big one. And I don't think it's unique to just mothering. Like we're talking about like the postpartum kind of stuff. But I think it happens in other parts of our lives too. Like you are one person all through school, you're living at home, you graduate high school and you go to college and all of a sudden your parents aren't there and you are independent and you can kind of do whatever you want and you have responsibilities, and transitions like that are also difficult.
Mm-hmm.
Transitions into being married, like going from worrying about you to worrying about you in a relationship and this other person. It's a big transition, right?
Yeah.
And I think those are the big transitions that sometimes it's hard or can be challenging to keep a hold of that essence, that core of who you are,
Mm-hmm.
or keep sights on them. It's not like it goes away, but
Re-navigating.
yeah, it's like adding in these other circumstances, adding in these other parts that are being activated that, again, I think are built in. See, I'm not even going to say the word.
I know, that's what I'm like, you're trying not to say it.
I don't know if you know this. I'm a rebel. So I'm like, oh, you're going to count it. I won't say it again.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah. Or are you going to be more
I've
aware?
I've noticed it twice already that she was going to, but she didn't.
It's true. It's true. But it is. It's like, it's built in and it kind of gets activated, but then you have to figure out how to like mold it in.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mhm.
Yes. Creating a new mold.
Yeah.
I get it. Is this for me now?
Is this for you now?
Is this for me now? I think so. Might be. So, yeah, you are completely re-navigating, remolding who you thought you were. You were taking bits of you who you were and trying to figure out, like, okay, am I still this person? Am I, like, is this something that I'm going to be, like, working into my motherhood? Or is this something that's going to have to go over here for a little bit? And some of those things that have to go over there can be really, really hard, because I know I definitely had several of those where I thought they were like my core.
Mhm.
Are these do things or be things?
Do things.
Okay.
Very do things. So before I had kids, I loved crafting. Like, I loved making things, crocheting, learning embroidery. I wanted to learn all the things that had to do with yarn. I wanted to learn it because it's so much fun. I still do. I love yarn. So I had a job, and after we got pregnant, I was planning on, and I did, being a stay-at-home mom. And thanks to TV and how they portray people having children and how the baby isn't even in the episode at all because they're just sleeping the whole time.
Mhm.
And I wasn't around babies a whole lot growing up. So I was under the impression that babies slept,
Mhm.
and I would be able to, at least while they're newborn, like, be able to start really focusing on the things that made me, creating crafts,
Mhm.
and eventually even opening up my own online store and doing all these things. That's what I thought. That's who I thought I was. And then I had my first baby, and I think she is a special case as well because the only reason I knew she was asleep is because she wasn't moving. She was wiggling from day one. She was lifting her head up hour one, looking around the room. Hour one, she was
Oh
looking
my
around.
God.
I mean, it was shaky, but she was looking around.
Oh, I can just imagine the little
And
baby.
which was amazing,
Yeah.
day one. Oh my goodness, my baby's so smart. She's so strong. And now I'm like, oh my goodness, my baby's so smart. She's so strong. So, anyway, me trying to find this time to do these things that I thought made me, and then not being able to do them was very frustrating.
Mhm.
Because she was that cat napper. She would nap maybe 15 minutes. Unless I was holding her, then maybe I could get, her to sleep longer. But, you can't do anything while you're holding her.
Mhm.
Can't do anything. And then oh my goodness. And then those days where it would just like come out of nowhere where they'd sleep for 3 hours,
Mhm.
which did come around every once in a while.
Mhm.
But I was never prepared for them. So I'd be sitting like, well, she's going to get up in about 15 minutes anyway. So I'm just going to sit here and relax.
Uh-huh.
And it'd be 15 minutes. And then it'd be 15 minutes. And
Uh-huh.
it'd be 15 minutes. Like, oh, she's going to wake up any second now.
Uh-huh.
And then she kept sleeping. And then I'm like, I'd been sitting there for 3 hours. I'm like, I
Mhm.
could have gotten so much done.
Yep.
I'm like, I wish you would have warned me. Anyway. So, yeah, I completely understand where you say you felt like you lost yourself. I lost myself. I didn't know who I was.
Mhm.
And I know people could tell that I was different because fast forward, after I had my second daughter, my hormones started to balance out again and I started feeling more like myself. And people could tell an immediate shift in me for the better. And so, I don't know. I don't know what it was about having her that just kind of made me even out a bit. But that was just completely, I don't know if that was hormones or, more confidence or actually not expecting to get any work done. I'm like, I'm not expecting it this time. So, and she actually did sleep a little bit more, which was nice. I could actually lay her down and she would just fall asleep. Like, could we have swapped this? Like, no. Anyway. So it was after I had my first daughter that I was trying to I was really trying to force it for the longest time. Like, I've got to find how to get back into being who I am. And it was just not happening. So I would get more frustrated and more frustrated and more frustrated. And I mean, I would tell Mitchell, I'm like, I am not doing a good job with this. Like, I'm not handling this mothering thing well. And it's after I've gotten better and more even keeled and more confident and feeling better about myself that I'm like, do you think maybe I had a little bit of postpartum depression? Maybe a little bit?
Yeah.
Maybe just a little bit? That would have been nice to know.
Yeah. Yeah.
But like, I never would have said that I had postpartum depression. Like, while I was going through it, because I was just angry a lot of the time. I was angry because I couldn't be who I thought I was. And it was frustrating trying to force myself being who I thought I was. And it wasn't until I'd come to the realization that maybe I'm not, like, my core isn't these do things. Like, those aren't actually who I am. So if I can put aside some of this stuff and know that I can pick it back up later, that was way freeing. Way freeing? It was freeing. And so, no, I don't know if some of those things are going to come back or not. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. But at this point, I'm living my life that is going alongside with being a mom. Not me trying to like shove other things in or trying to like squash, like let's stop mothering for 5 seconds so I can go do this over here. But now I'm finding a way to do these things that I'm doing now alongside the parenting and, them being together. And so it's like I'm way happier about it. So whether those things come back or not, I'm actually okay with. That doesn't mean I don't like crafting. I still love it.
Right.
But now when I do them, they're going to be for fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I actually have the time to do it.
Yeah.
And I know it's going to come.
Or maybe the presence or the lack of them doesn't actually have the power to define who you are anymore.
Exactly.
Which might be a rightful aligning, truly. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that you're not creative. It just means that those things don't define you.
Exactly.
Right. The
So
yarn
it was-
master is not Lorin.
I know. I would love that title, by the way.
You said what?
The yarn,
yarn
master.
master. She
Would
said
love that title.
She said she loves yarn.
I do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Lorin, wife, mother, yarn master.
I think you could put it on a business card.
I would love that.
Oh my gosh.
I would definitely not say I was a yarn master right now, but that is definitely a title I will want to live up to.
That's awesome.
So, yeah, I felt like I was going to say something else. I don't remember now. It'll probably come back later.
I don't have a lot to say on the topic, honestly. You guys are really hitting it on the nail, and I'm like over here just like I'm enjoying listening to the experiences because I haven't had it yet, but I know eventually I'll go through it, and so It's just really cool.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
I see you're getting emotional.
I can
Yes.
see.
And I saw it earlier.
Mhm.
What's happening?
I think it's just hard sometimes when you want to be in a place, but you're not there yet. And I've wanted to be a mom for a long time, ever since I was little, and it's just like I feel like I'm getting to that place, but I'm just not there yet. And it's hard sometimes when you see everyone else going through what you want to be going through. And I'm still going through stuff that's changing me, but it's not the same. It's almost like backwards. Like with my boyfriend's dad dying, it's like I'm lost myself through this process, but it's not the same process. And I feel like it's backwards. And so it's just really hard, you know? Especially when a lot of your friends are getting pregnant or engaged, and then everyone's like, why aren't you? And I'm like, well, I don't know. I'm just over here trying to run a business, start a podcast, and mother 3 dogs, which is hard sometimes. But it's hard when you want to be somewhere and you're not, and you're still not sure who you are, you know? And you're not in the place where you feel like you're supposed to be. You haven't and I'm really proud of myself for where I am, but I feel like it's not generally respected by others yet. If that makes sense.
Really?
Yeah. Because I feel like where I'm at would be maybe, I think like figuring out your career and stuff maybe would be 10 years. I would be where I'm at. Like when I tell people I know what I'm doing, I want to do the rest of my life. Like all 3 things I do, like my podcast, my business, and this other job I do. I love it and I'm good at it. But it's hard when you're in your 20s and people are like, why aren't you having kids? You're supposed to be having kids right now. Why aren't you in the house, you know? And it's like, but look at what else I'm doing. No one really seems to care. It's like, I know people care, but it's like, finally I'm like, I just like, and I feel so bad about it because I take it out on my boyfriend the most, but it's like, have you seen my podcast? Like, have you listened to that? Have you heard what I've been going through? And it's just like, it's so hard when I also want to be in the, maybe not the postpartum, maybe, but it's like, I feel like I'm going through it without having a kid.
Sure.
And so it's just hard. And I love kids.
Well, and I think,
I love the idea of having a little me running around.
yeah.
But yeah.
I think what you're describing is super valid.
Yeah.
And I think it's something that needs to be addressed in that oftentimes, others will put expectations on your life
Yeah.
and wonder why you haven't lived up to their expectations for your life.
Yeah.
And in reality, no one has any right to have an expectation on your life.
Yeah.
Your life isn't meant to look like my life, which isn't meant to look like your life. We're all meant to be living these individual, unique expressions of who we were made to be.
Yeah.
And so if that means not having a child until you're in your 90s or whenever it was, when did Sarai, you know, Abraham and Sarah?
I think it was 90.
Yeah. It was 90s.
It was in her 90s. If that means not having a child until you're in your 90s, then that's what it is. And if it's finding your career path super early and being driven and knowing what you want to do, that's fine.
Yeah.
But I think it's a defense mechanism, I'll be honest. Because sometimes
I think so too.
when others put expectations on you and how you live your life, it is because they see some place in which they fall short. And I can already hear people listening and going, that's not why I do that. Yeah, it is. I think it is.
But I mean, yeah.
You know, and also I think it's a very real thing that people are disappointed with how their lives are sometimes.
Yeah.
Ooh,
and
girl.
for not being in the place where they want to be. So then they want to put that on other people to be where they want to be, essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's a hard one. Like, have I ever been disappointed in my life? Absolutely.
Or
I
what
can
if
tell
it's-
you.
What if it's this is where they were? That's where they were at their part of their life, but it's hindered other things. And so they expect other people to be in that same place. Like, oh, I was here at this age, so I mean, you should be here too. You
Yeah.
shouldn't be furthering other goals or anything because I wasn't able to when I was that age. I
Yeah.
was having kids, and that's what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
So I have to make everybody like me. I don't know if that's actually accurate.
No, that makes sense though. It makes them.
It might be some people. Like, you never know. That was probably the most annoying thing after I got married. I got married at 20.
Mm-hmm.
We were 2 years into our undergraduate degrees. Immediately after getting married, people are like, when are you having kids?
Yeah.
Like, I am in college.
That
Yeah.
always happens.
I am in college.
I had my first baby. I mean, he's 2 days old, and people are like, "Are you going to have another one?" I'm like, "Would you give me a second?"
Oh my goodness. It was like,
It literally like makes me angry.
it
I'm
does. It
Why?
like,
And then,
ticked
like-
us off.
And I've noticed even people in my life, because I try not to ask anymore about like that to people. I really try, and then I'll catch myself doing it to make
Mhm.
myself feel better. But then it really just hurts me because half the time they're having a kid, or they are engaged, or they are God knows what else. But
Yeah.
Sure.
you know, so it's really just the comparison game, which you don't want to play. But
And the worst part was when they would say, "Oh, but you're never really ready." Well, fine. Well, I'll just throw caution to the wind
that's
and possibly throw my degree, which I actually found out, like, I don't think I really needed that. But
true faces.
hindsight, I don't know if I really needed that.
True
But
faces.
back
That's what
then, I
we
thought I
think.
did. I'm like, I'll just throw my degree out the window and just stop everything right now and be like, just, like
Mhm.
that's not what I wanted. My husband and I waited. I think we were married about 9.5 years when we had our first. We waited like 9 years,
Well,
Mhm.
which is a long time.
mhm.
And
On whose scale, though?
Yeah.
You know,
on everybody else's, not
Yeah.
ours. Like for us, it was like, it was perfect.
Mhm.
For us, it was
then
perfect.
it was perfect.
It was perfect.
yeah.
Like we went through college, we had time to ourselves, and
That's like
whenever
where
we
we're at.
decided to have kids, it was just like, I think it's time.
Mhm.
It wasn't like I want babies. It was like I think it's time.
Yeah.
And it took us 6 months to get pregnant,
Mhm.
which is not long for a lot of people who are trying.
No.
It's not long, and it was just the right time for us.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so I think if you do this, I say this with the most love as possible. Stop asking people
Yeah.
when they're going to have kids.
Or
Because
yeah.
it's
I feel like why like I try to normalize asking people. Well, and that thing too is like people are so stuck in the past. You know, every time I see people that aren't people like you guys, people honestly in the areas, my podcast, my business, and then sort of the other one, sometimes they get stuck in the past, but it's like those two are the most driving forces of looking forward into what I could be. And it's like it makes me upset, and I don't want to be upset about it, but I think that's just where I'm at right now. It just makes me upset when people talk about, oh, what happened in high school or what happened in college. I'm like, that stuff is so far gone. Like, it's so far over. Like, why aren't we asking each other, like, how is your business? How is this? Like, we should be up to date with those people in our lives where we can ask that, even if
like,
it is
ask
people
them
from
about the
back
things
home.
that they're actually dealing with
right
at that moment.
I don't want to talk about, the high school football game that we've heard 1,000 times a story about. Like, that's not even close. I'm not even close to the
relevant.
same person I was in high school, Oh, no. But, and so it's just like, I wish that would become more normalized of asking people, how is this race something that's going on in your life, Because none of us are the same person we were like 3 months ago. That's how frequently things should be changing. And it's like, if it's not, well. So just, I think a lack of progress really irritates me, and I'm having a hard time being around it. Because if I'm around that, then you're like the 5 people you're around the most, so then I'm not progressing. So then I'm getting irritated, Gotta find that happy balance, I guess. So then at the same time, but what is like progress? Because again, like you only put that pressure on yourself from what you hear around you. So like, I don't know. It's so hard, and so I could go so far into it, but yeah.
Well, I feel like we could go into it.
I do too.
I don't know how deep you want to go into it.
Mm-hmm.
You want to just say what you're thinking?
Refresh what we're talking about.
Like, just, oh my gosh, now I'm like drawing a blur. Dude, I've had a lot of emotions going through my head right now. But just like,
Yeah.
I think just like with the postpartum, but also like kind of like with the stuff I'm going through, just like losing yourself, but then still having to work through it, still having to go through your normal life. Like, it's just hard. And I feel like it's one of those things in life that happen, but we have to still
Mhm.
learn to go through it. And every single person goes through that same thing differently or the same, but we still go through it, you know?
Right.
Like I was talking to one of my other friends that lives in Oklahoma, and she was talking about what she was going through, and she was going through her pregnancy, and like she had some difficulties and like things happening. So she wasn't to the postpartum yet, but the things she was going through, like I was sitting there just thinking in my head, like, I'm going through the same emotions you are, but it's completely 180. I'm going through death emotions, and you're going through like having a
Life,
life
yeah.
in you emotions. And she was telling me kind of like what she was going through, and I'm not like, I guess I'm not saying any names, so it's okay. But pretty much she was going through what she thought was a miscarriage. She was explaining all of it. And then like the next day the doctor calls her back and is like, nope, your baby's fine. Everything's fine. And she was like, there's still a baby in there? And it was like her going through those emotions from like happy to sad. And then like the emotions I'm going through, happy to sad, and just like all over the place. It's just weird. It's a weird
Yeah.
place to be in. And it's
Mhm.
really hard because it's like, it hasn't even been just myself, but I'm like, I feel like I've completely lost myself. And like talking about this, it's like you go through like all this stuff, but it's like all I want to do is be a mom, you know? But I'm not there yet, and it's okay. And it's just
Yeah.
like, but it's made to be so negative. But it's like then no one knows what we're going through because, you know, you don't talk about death as much as life. And so when you think about that, I was thinking about how everyone was kind of so judgmental, was so judgmental during our 6-year anniversary. And everyone's like, 6 years. But even myself, I made it a point to like tell people, yeah, it's been 6 years. I don't need to be saying that. Like, it doesn't make a difference, you know? But I was almost reiterating how negative it should be when there's nothing negative about it, you
Mm-mm.
know?
What would be negative about being with someone for 6
Just
years?
like, I guess the idea of, oh, you should be
Congratulations,
engaged. Thank
Paige.
you.
Right.
Thank you. Because I'm like the idea of like, you know, okay, you should be engaged right now, or you should be having kids right now.
Well, there's that.
Should.
Right. There's
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
expectation again
Yeah.
that someone else is putting on you that should be happening for your life.
Yes.
However, you guys are the only ones living your life.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's important that you do what's best for you guys.
Yeah. Very true.
Right. And
Very
be
true.
led in the way that you need to be led in that. And I know that
Mhm.
you have an active relationship with the Lord who does
Yeah.
like lay that path before you. And so,
Mhm.
I mean, people are gonna
Yeah. But
people are crummy to other people sometimes,
Mhm.
you guys. And
But then it's
we
like
just
then I
gotta
almost
stop.
like
Yeah,
fell
it's
into
just-
like
it's gotta stop.
where I was I would fall into like getting mad at the Lord, and I hated that. I was like, no, because He's done so much for me. Like, no,
And
I'm
if
not going to do that.
If you have opened yourself up to his timeline,
Mm-hmm.
if you've opened yourself, I'm like, God, I will walk with you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm open to it. And if things don't happen in a certain timeline, you don't have to think that you're doing anything wrong.
Yeah.
Like, you can just walk in it knowing that things are happening in the timeline that it's supposed to.
Yeah, for sure.
So whether you know what you're doing or not,
Mm-hmm.
the fact that you've just opened yourself up to that, then you can just rest in knowing
Yeah.
it's going, like, things are happening in the timeline that they're going to happen. And that's okay.
Yeah.
Everybody's timelines look different. I got married at 20.
Yeah.
I wanted to have, at the beginning of our marriage, like, I thought, like, I would like to have kids. I would like to have all of my kids.
Uh-huh.
At first, we thought 3. And now I'm like, after I had the one, I'm like, now I don't know.
Mhm.
I wanted to have all of our kids before the age of 30.
Uh-huh.
I am just a few weeks shy of 34.
Mm-hmm.
And we're still tossing around the idea of, like, are we going to have one more?
Yeah.
So,
I
like,
think yes.
we probably.
Try for a boy.
Probably. Yeah, but if it ain't a boy this next time, we're done. Like, tubes are tying, like, we're done. Okay. But we just need to throw off these expectations of other people. We need to throw off these expectations we put on ourselves
Yeah.
because we're trying to live out this life that we thought we were supposed to have, and it's not happening, and that's frustrating.
Yeah.
And like, who said we had to have that life?
Mm-hmm.
Like, just live the life
Yeah,
that you're
right.
given and live it the best way you possibly can. Live it with intentionality and joy, like even in the suck.
Literally.
Yeah, even
Even
in the
suck.
suck.
Like
Yeah.
everybody lives in the suck
Mm-hmm.
from time to time.
I think it's
That's
more a
true.
majority of the time, honestly. I feel like now I'm learning. I'm like, majority of the time sucks, but then you get those good little moments. And I feel like that's what you gotta hold on to. Which is unfortunate, but that's the world we're in. I mean, we're not in heaven yet. We are on earth.
Aren't we?
Well, heaven on earth. Yes.
Lauren's like, don't go there. Like, oh, here we go.
But you can find those moments, like, and that's what I think is cool. And I try to hold on to so hard because we go through that ebb and flow in our daily life, just as we do in overall. And so it's like, oh my gosh, like sometimes even in the suck, I'm like, there's a butterfly. Thank you. That's all I needed. But
Yeah. I think there is so much joy. There really is so much joy to be had,
yeah,
even in the suck. And it can be a butterfly.
yeah. And so
It could
that's
be a
why I really
butterfly.
tried to lean into, like, even though it was hard, and I probably was no help to Zachary, because of course he has to deal with me. But like, I'm thinking, okay, we've been dating for 6 years. Like, that should be a amazing thing. And I'm like, and I was talking to one of my friends about it, telling her, kind of just talking out loud about it. And I'm thinking, 6 years, yeah, you would expect during all these people are expecting stuff, but his dad passes away. I'm like, this is not the most ideal time for a proposal, honestly.
Right.
I'm like, so maybe when people look at it that way or care to look at it that way, like that takes so much pressure off of me. But if I just look at it that way and I believe that, like, that's all I need. And I need to understand that as well,
Yeah.
you know?
So where's your focus?
That's what I need. It has
Where's your
not been
focus?
you know, that we've been dating for 6 years. My focus was on the opposite. And now that I realized it, it's like, it's more freeing now.
Yeah.
Just being able to see that and say it out loud and say, I don't care.
Yeah.
It's fine. And that's all that matters at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah. So yeah, whenever I say that there is joy
mhm,
and there is good and there is beauty in the world,
mhm,
where's your focus?
mm.
Like if you're not focusing on any of that,
Yeah.
you're not focusing on. That was a laugh, by the way. You heard it. That
I
was a
did
laugh.
hear it.
If you're not focusing on those good things, you're
Mhm.
not focusing on the way she sounds when she laughs, which is
Mhm.
adorable. Of course, you're only going to see all of those, the
Uh-huh.
bad, the negative. Like, it's been 6 years.
Yeah.
It's been 6 years.
Yeah.
Where's your focus?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like, I think there is joy to be had if you're focusing on the right things.
Yeah. That's a good point.
Absolutely. And I was going to ask you guys, because I think I have an opinion on this. Do you think, honestly, there's any point in life when you're not in a transition?
No.
No.
Hard 100% no.
Right. So if we're constantly transitioning, why are we so surprised about it?
I don't know, dude.
You know what I mean? Like,
And
why
so
is this
then,
surprising?
and so then, if we
Mhm.
are looking for the joy in the moment, or can we find the life in what's happening right now? We know that there's constant transition going on.
Mhm.
If we feel ourselves like being pulled into the suck, right? Can we take a step back and try to shift that perspective and be
Mhm.
like, we're still moving, right? Transition is a movement, right? And how do we make this forward movement?
Mm.
Mhm.
You know, how do we make this life-giving? Instead of like feeling like this is draining everything from my life force, which sometimes happens, right? Right? Like, can we say, okay, where's the life in this?
Mhm.
See the butterfly, you know,
Yeah.
recognize the adorable giggle that comes out of that little human. You know, like whatever it is, like, can we just find that
Yeah.
Mhm.
and let that be kind of what anchors us to help us keep going?
Yeah.
You know? And I don't think it has to be like rainbows and butterflies all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's okay to acknowledge when stuff sucks, because sometimes stuff sucks. It just does. And it's fine. But I think it's the ability to move out of that and not just live in the muck, not live in the suck.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Does that
You
make
can
sense?
walk through the muck. Well, oh my goodness, where am I going with this? You can walk through the muck without living in the suck.
I knew it was going to rhyme. I knew it.
I'm a mom. Read a lot of
That
Dr.
was
Seuss.
awesome.
That's what we do. Oh, that's
We should
hilarious.
write that children's book.
Ooh, you can walk through the muck without living in the suck. I'm sure it will go very well.
I'm sure.
I'm sure it will go
I
very
bet
well.
all the moms want to read that to their kids.
I do. I do. But yeah, I think it just starts with a lot of intentionality at first. Whenever you're trying to, if that isn't your normal of finding the butterflies,
Right.
it's going to take a lot of intentionality at first.
Mm-hmm.
And so start there. Just start there. And you might find a butterfly the
Mhm.
first day.
Yeah.
And that's
Mhm.
okay.
Yeah.
So yeah. So what's what we're doing? No expectations. Just stop it.
Yay. That was the least peppiest yay I've ever done. Did you hear that?
I know. I'm like, wow.
Yay.
I feel like- I think Paige is losing herself.
You're like, this is me. Woo. Like, that's how
You're not even going to hear me do that.
I'm like the Energizer Bunny that ran out of the energy. I got that from someone else. That's a trademark. That should be true. That should be quoted to this girl I know. But she calls herself the Energizer Bunny, and I feel like that's how I am a lot of the time. And I'm like, oh, I'm the Energizer Bunny that ran out of batteries.
That's
right now.
It's funny.
Just time to
I need to recharge.
just time to change the
Time
batteries.
to recharge.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, I'm done.
You're done. Boom done.
I'm done.
Boom done.
Boom. Done.
Thank you all. Love you guys.
That's it for today. Thanks for listening. Keep up with us on this unmasking journey by joining us every Friday.
Like, subscribe, and follow us on Instagram. This episode is sponsored by Podcast Solutions and podcasttables.shop.
As always, we're glad you're here. See you next week.
Boom, done.